All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's put into play what we did in 3.4. We're going to look at a 5-number summary, and then we're going to put that into a graph called a box plot. All right, so when we look at this, we have a minimum. You have quartile 1. Yeah, minimum, quartile 1, median, quartile 3, and then maximum. I caught myself there for a second. I thought, wait, what? So remember also the median, which we're going to call a median, is the same thing as quartile 2 that we talked about last time. Those are synonymous. So we're going to call it a median this time. So minimum, quartile 1, median, quartile 3, maximum. Those are your 5 numbers. All right. Now, here's the deal. In drawing a box plot, it's understood that you take care of these 5 first. Then these are the steps that go after that. All right. Okay. So once we get our 5-number summary, then we do these steps. Determine the fences. That's language we just learned and we now know. Then we're going to draw a line enough to include the maximum and minimum values. Insert vertical lines at these quartiles and enclose those in a boxes. So that's my number line just to make sure that I have my setup, and we're going to have values there. Label the upper and lower fences. Draw a line from quartile 1 to the smallest value that's still in the within the fence. Quartile 3, the smallest value that's still within the fence. And then those are called whiskers. So sometimes these are called box and whisker plots. So if you've ever heard of a box and whisker, that's what this is. It's a box plot, the same thing. Then any data values less than the lower fence or the upper fence, those outliers, right? Because that's what we learned what those were. The outliers are going to be shown with an asterisk. All right, so let's do it. Here we have data. In Table 7, show the finishing times of men in the 60 to 64-year-old age range for a 5K. We want the 5-number summary and then make a box plot. So in order to do the 5-number summary, we got to put these in order, right? Because it's a whole ton of medians. Wow, look how sweet this is, you guys. I didn't even notice this till right now. Check it out. Order that's already in order except for this column, which is super weird. Look at that. Those are in order. That's in order. And then you come up here and then go down the column in order. Why did they? If you're so close to that, why didn't you just put the whole thing in order? I don't know. I don't know. All right. Well, whatever. It is what it is. That makes our job a whole lot easier, though, doesn't it? Nice. Let's go ahead and put these out. So I'm going to try to write small enough that I have plenty of room for everything else. So we have 1995, 2325, 2332, 2555, 2583, 2628. Then go down to the next line. 2858, 2872, 3018, 3035. I might need to have 3 lines, who knows. 3095, 3213, 4917. Oh, whoa. Not the 49, that was off. 3213, then swing it down there to the 3323, right? 3353, 3668, 3705, 3743. Then it's 4142, and then those 3. 4247, 4917, and 5463. Nice! Wow, that made our life so much easier, didn't it? Okay, how many data points do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 3 is 21 data values, right? So that's sweet because that's odd. Wow, our life is so easy. Man, I love these kinds of problems. All right, so then that means for our median value, we have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then that's going to be our median. Right there. Sweet. And here's the other kicker. So on the last problem we did in that last section, it was an even number. But this is what I was talking about. So when you have an odd number, your median does not count in the lower half or the upper half. It's outside of that median. So I, of course, have the minimum, and you, of course, have the maximum. And then within that, we're going to get those quartiles. So because it's a 10, then we have to go halfway between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's quartile 1 is in here. And in order to get quartile 1, we are going to do our addition. 25.83 plus 26.28. Divide that by 2. And what do you get? 26.06. That's what I have. Did you get the same thing? Okay. Now let's do quartile 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. So quartile 3 is halfway between here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So here I have quartile 3, and we're going to do that same thing. 37.05 plus 37.43 divided by 2. And what'd you get? Do that in your calculator. 37.24. That's what I have. Now remember, just like we talked about in that last section, you have to put parentheses around that in order to get it to work in your calculator correctly. Yeah. Okay. So if you didn't have those numbers, that could be the issue there. All right. Now we've got our 5-number summary. So step 1 is to determine the fences, because I need to know what are my outliers, or do I even have any? You're not guaranteed to have outliers. You don't have to. You might. And then you need to figure out what that is. So remember, with your fences, I'm going to pull this up here. The lower fence is quartile 1 minus 1.5 times that inner quartile range. And your upper fence is that quartile 3 plus 1.5 times that inner quartile range, right? We got all of that from that last section. So we just keep building. If you have it in a previous section, it's fair game. So make sure you keep that in mind. You don't just leave it and go to something new. Then that ends up being something we're going to be using, like we do here with these fences. All right, so let's figure this out. So we have our lower fence, and that's going to be, the lower fence will equal my quartile 1, which is 26.06, minus 1.5 times, ooh, my inner quartile range. We don't have that yet, do we? Well, let's get it right now then. So if we can have an inner quartile range, that would be 37.24 minus 26.06. Because remember, that inner quartile range is quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So my inner quartile range is going to be 11.18. And that's what we're going to use. Nice. Okay, so plug that into your handy dandy calculator, and what do you get? 9.29? Yep, me too. All right, and then look at your upper fence. So your upper fence is going to be quartile 3, which is 37.24, plus 1.5 times that 11.18. So your upper fence in this instance is going to be 54.01 is what I have. Is that what you get? Nice. Nice. Okay. So notice that's the very first thing that you want to figure out on our steps, because you want to determine, do I have any outliers, right? So I'll know where the asterisks are, and I know where to draw my whiskers to then at that point too. And then look at step 2. It says draw a number line long enough to include all of the maximum and minimum values. So we are going from 1995 to 5463. So what do you say here? Let's go with the number line. Let's go from 0 to 60, or we could even go 10 to 60, I guess, because that would cover it all. So here's our number line. 0, 10, 20. You don't have to include 30 in a number line. I just did. I don't know why, honestly. I don't know. You could have stopped it off at that. Well, I guess maybe it makes it nice too, because we kind of need to go before 10 because this is 9.29. So yeah, that's down here for my fence, right? Okay, so once we draw our number line, then it says insert vertical lines at our quartiles and fill it in with a box. So quartile 1 is 26, so it's about halfway between here. And you can just guess, that's okay. Our median is 30.95, so it's right there at the 30 mark. And then, yeah, then quartile 3 is 37.24, so it's about right there. And then we make that our box. This is quartile 1, median quartile 3. All right, then the next step says label the fences. Well, we know my fence is down here at 9.29, and we use those with a bracket. Now I'm going to try to make this. I was trying to see everything at once, but doggone, that's small, isn't it? So 9.29, I'll put a little fence right there. And then what's my upper? 5401. So it's about halfway. Just that the fences just help me with that guide. All right, so that's the next step that we're looking at. Then we're going to draw a line from quartile 1 to the smallest that's larger than the lower fence. So basically, what's the smallest value that's still within my fence is the goal there. Well, I'm good with that because 1995 is my smallest value. So then that's still going to be within my fence. So I'm going to put a little dot right there. And then I'm going to connect it. But look at what's happening out here. My fence is happening at 5401. What's my max data value? Ooh, 5463. That's an outlier. That's an outlier. So 5463, that's considered an outlier because it's outside of my fence. So if it's outside of my fence, we're going to get to that here in just a minute. There's the spoiler alert right there. But draw from quartile 3 to the largest data value that's smaller than the fence. So the next one in line would be 4917, and that is what we're represented as. So 4917 is where we're representing my upper, or the end of my whisker. Do you see that? Okay, now these fences, they are not really part of your graph. They're just a guide. So then you get rid of those. And then you have 5463, any data values. So this isn't step 5. That's lower than my fence or greater than my fence. We're going to put as an asterisk because those are those outliers. And we do have such a value at 5463. And again, we're just doing the best we can with where we're at. You see that? And there's my box and whisker plot. It's always nice to have a title to it. I didn't put one in there, but this is Men 60 to 64 5K race. Men 60 to 64 5K race times. There you go. All right, cool, right? We're taking what we learned previously and then we're making a graph into it so that we can then look at this data not just as a big jumble of numbers, but we can kind of put some value to it. Also, what did we learn last time? Whatever's in this box, this is 50% of your data. That is half of your data that's in there. But notice this goes out farther. This half of my data lies here. The shorter amount of time is not as much, right? It strings out the longer it is. Most of my data is grouped right within those values. Then we have a couple that were a little bit slower is basically the moral of the story. Nice. See, so a visual representation is helpful.